Okay, so we left off last time with our character just kind of like idling here in the middle of the air. So let's apply some gravity and try and get him on the ground. So I'm going to close this and we are going to add our first bits of code. So you can double click on the player object and we can add some coding events. So I'm going to say add event, and first up we are going to add a create event. So this means that when this object first appears in the game, it's going to run this code straight away. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a variable, which is a location to store some information that we can use in our game. So I'm going to say gravity equals 0.35 semicolon. If for some reason your code isn't changing color, that should go purple. I'm just going to quickly hit save. I'm going to close my project by going to the home button, and I'm going to open it back up again. Yeah, that's the kind of color that we should have. You'll see that each element should be color coded, so the values will be in red. The names of the variables will be this kind of like purpley type color. So we've got a variable that's going to hold the rate of gravity. As you saw in a previous little demonstration of our video, our 0, 0 coordinates is in the top left, and our y-axis movement, like up and down, the lower you go down here, the higher the number. So let me just do the next little bit of code and we'll talk about how this actually works. So when our object is created, it's going to have this player gravity value stored there. So I'm now going to do a new event, which is a step event. So the step event is going to run every frame of our game. If I click here in the game options, we should be able to see how many frames of the game that we have. Oh, it was on the one up here actually. So if you go to main options, general, 60 frames per second. So it means that our step event, which I can go back to here, is going to run 60 times every second. And it's going to keep on checking for different kind of conditions. So what we're going to do here is our character, we can change their y speed to be impacted by this gravity. So let's actually go back here first of all. So I'm going to make a variable called y speed, and right now I'm just going to make it 0. So y speed is going to control the up and down, or the y-axis movement of our character. So in here I can say, let me do that again actually. You can see that when I press Y, it's going to have some autocomplete options that kind of pop up. So if you want to go with what's already there at the top, you can just press tab and it's going to write the rest of it for you. So I want my Y speed. I'm going to do plus equals, and I'm going to say player gravity, and we always end with a semicolon. So each time the step event runs, I'm going to take the number that's already in my Y speed and I'm going to add 0.35 to it. Okay, and that number, this Y speed value is going to get increasingly bigger, and that's going to move our character down the screen hopefully. So let me go into a new line and I'm going to actually make this happen. Oh, plus equals Y speed. So you can see here this Y is in green. That means it's like an attribute that's kind of built into GameMaker and it's tied to our object player. So this is going to take the value and it's going to copy it in here and it's going to move our player down. So let's run this. Oh, so you can see that our player just basically falls out of the screen. You'll notice that he went behind the ground. If we wanted our player to go in front of the ground, we can actually drag this ground layer underneath the instance layer. So if I run my game again, he falls through there. So that's a little bit easier to see, but it's still not what we want. So let's try and fix some of this. Oh, first of all, let's actually go back to our object player and let's add some comments in here as well. So I can move this down and I can do 2 forward slashes, which means a comment is going to follow. And I can type in just a little bit of information. Okay, so this is not code that's going to be run, it's just information for the person who's reading the code to make it easier to understand. It's also worth noting that any blank lines don't do anything in GameMaker either, so you can use them as many as you want to space out your code. So let me go in here and I can player physics settings. And what else can we do down here to make it a little bit easier to understand? Let me do a comment after this. So I can say apply gravity. And I could say let's go with move the player vertically. Okay. Oh, typo. Okay, let's remind ourselves where we're at. Okay, so we're falling down here. How can we stop that? So right now the game doesn't know that this ground tile set here is meant to be like a kind of physical object that's going to stop the player from kind of dropping through it. So to do that, we need to add another variable into our create event so that we can interact with that tile set. So let's say get reference of ground tile map. Okay, so I'm going to create a variable called ground underscore tile map, and I'm going to use a command. You can see how as I type it kind of pops up with stuff there. So I'm going to move down using the down arrow. I'm going to say tile map get ID. Oh, and in here I am going to type in the word ground, which is basically saying here's ground, have a look at this and grab the value of it and store it into this handy to use variable so that I can then mess around with it and interact with it easily without having to use this big long command each time. You'll notice if I move my cursor over here, it gives me a little bit of information about this particular function and how to use it. But let's not complicate things too much right now. What we're going to do with this is we are going to do a little bit of vertical collision detection. Okay, so let's jump in here. And I'm going to say vertical collision detection. And yeah, we're going to write some code that's going to check if these things collide with each other, and then it's going to tell the game what to do. So we're going to have an if statement, which is going to allow us to make some decisions based on different conditions. So I can say if, and then I'm going to open up some brackets, and I'm going to say place meeting, which is a function that checks to see if our object is going to meet its x and y coordinates with the tile map. So I'm going to say x, and I'm going to say y, but what we're looking for here is if our player moves, is it going to be touching something? So we're going to actually add on our y speed in here. And the final part of this is we need to tell what it is we're looking for. So it's going to be the ground tile map. And what's missing, blah, 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 blah. Oh, what's missing is the fact that we need to have a semicolon here, and then we are going to open up these curly kind of braces, which is going to tell the program that whatever is going to, like, let's pause for a second. First, let's actually address this error that we have here. You can see that this is underlined in red, and that's going to signify that something's not right. And I can see that what's not right is I've messed up my brackets here, actually. So that doesn't need to be here. I've got my blue one here that opens this. I've got these two red ones that contain all the information here. But what's missing is I need to have another bracket at the end. There we go. So now you'll see, oh, no semicolon there either. There we go. So now you see there's a blue one here and a blue one here. And then this red one contains all this information, which is for our place meeting function. Okay, so the red line is kind of gone. Don't worry if this is a little bit confusing or complex right now. Once you interact with it a little bit, it's going to be simpler to understand. So we're saying if our player object, if its future Y position is going to meet with this ground tile map, then run the code that's inside of this. And what that really is going to mean, when you've got an if statement, you tab across inside, and I'm going to say Y speed is equal to 0. So let's run this and see what happens. Oh, that's not right. Okay, so I just remembered the reason that we are having this effect where effectively nothing happens is because we needed to tweak a little setting in our tile set. So we want to go down here, expand out our tile set. Let's hide our sprites. Double click on the one that we used. And we want to go to properties, and we want to untick this box. And that's going to allow us to perform our detection properly. So let's go back to our player. And then let's run this again. Boom. Our little person has now found the ground, but you can see there's actually a small gap there, which is less than ideal. So let us close this. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at the sprite and see what might be causing that. So if I go to the player sprite, and we're looking at the idle one here. And yeah, you want to expand out collision mask. And this is the shape that the game uses to detect collisions. And you see the way that this has been loaded. This little box here is actually a little bit too low. So if I move that to the bottom of his feet perfectly and run again, that looks a lot better. Okay, so that's our gravity working.